Story 1. In the cake decorating community, when you see shop-ready cakes and the person says, "This is my first time decorating a cake," I'm skeptical. Story 2. There are many stories in the best of Redditor updates where the police conveniently arrive quickly, or trials are resolved easily and swiftly, resulting in everyone receiving justice with clear moments of and then everyone clapped. Story 3. The entire AITA subreddit follows the same formula. A title that makes the original poster sound like a bad person, an incredibly implausible story that flips the script, and then the original poster receiving an overwhelming number of messages from everyone, who in reality wouldn't care. Story 4. The story Surrender to the Gaycation is immensely entertaining and creative, but I highly doubt it is not at the very least heavily embellished. Story 5. The man I knew was a liar from the start, but when he described being with a woman so intensely that it caused a serious injury and she just laid there laughing about it, I knew that was impossible. Story 6. The individual whose mother performed inappropriate actions on him during his teenage years in the hospital. Edit, yes, the person with broken arms. Story 7. The 23-year-old finance professional who earned $275,000 a year, lived at home with his parents, had no debt, and was wondering if he could afford a $65,000 new car. Story 8. Any AITA post can be biased and one-sided, often containing half-truths and hidden truths, even if it is rooted in reality. Story 9. This isn't a heavy hitter by any stretch, but when I was new to Reddit, I was in the r/entitled parents community because I hadn't yet moved on from the part of me that craved cringe content. I saw a post titled "Boys Will Be Boys" and thought, I'll bite. The story went as follows. The original poster and his little sister, who was about 14, went to get ice cream when a little boy ran up and smacked the sister. The original poster told the kid off, but the kid's mother came around the corner to scream at them because boys will be boys, and claimed the sister was inappropriate for not enjoying the child's advances. Then a sassy black employee, reminiscent of Titus Andromedon, came out of the ice cream shop to confront the entitled mother for using that slur and for victimizing the teenager. Afterward, the original poster and his sister received free ice cream. To this day, that story haunts me because what do you mean the comments were all going, "Oh no, poor baby. Tell your sister I said she didn't deserve that." And no one was questioning a single thing? I remembered that the sister was crying by the time the employee came out of the ice cream shop. Not because she had been sexually assaulted and yelled at, but because she was insecure about her body. Story 10. Everything on the subreddit Incest Confessions is incredibly unrealistic. Every story is practically the same. A guy is alone and his sister walks in. With little or no buildup, they engage in intimate acts, and when their mother catches them, instead of getting angry, she joins in. They participate in a family encounter, and at the end, everyone claps. It feels like the most untrustworthy content available. Story 11. I remember in one of the IDA forums a post that featured a lesbian couple of Catholic priests. Women, gay, and married Catholic priests. Go figure. Story 12. The Jenny Meeting for Kisses story featured an original poster who claimed he had a private investigator following his girlfriend as she went to cheat on him. He provided live updates in the thread, which received tens of thousands of upvotes and remained on the front page all day. From the very first paragraph, it was clearly an incredibly fake post that only a fool would believe, yet it captivated thousands of people who commented and begged for updates. This reflects a sad testament to the gullibility of the average person. Story 13. One story is about a man who claimed he survived a week in the wilderness with just a spoon and a sock. It seems unbelievable, right? Story 14. A man at an indoor dance party with airport-like security noticed another man who appeared visibly nervous and uncomfortable. He distracted the drug-sniffing dog by petting and playing with it. Although he received a stern warning from security personnel, he left knowing he had helped the other man avoid serious consequences. What a hero. I had to double-check, and it turns out the man he helped gave him $100 after the incident. Story 15. I need someone to pretend to be my dad for the weekend because I'm trying to impress a boy whose family has a cottage. I don't want them to meet my real family because they are quite eccentric. Story 16. Most of the stories I read here and on popular subreddits are often hard to believe. Even if they are not entirely fabricated, they frequently resemble embellished creative fan fiction, which makes it difficult for me to take them seriously. In 2025, I find it unlikely that something truly unique or special would happen to someone, and that the first thing they would do is post it on Reddit, finding just the right thread or comment. This skepticism makes me hesitant, and I try not to become that person who dismisses these accounts outright. Interestingly, some of the more satisfying or worthwhile stories come from replies to comments that aren't directly related to the main thread. When the conversation takes that unexpected turn, it feels like I've discovered a gem of a comment, even though it likely has the same chance of being true or false as any other comment. Story 17. For a while, nearly every thread that appeared on my feed was obviously false. Felt very orchestrated too. Story 18. Someone once claimed to be happy and fulfilled. Everyone dismissed it immediately. Nice try, stranger. Story 19. There was someone who posted on the Just Know MIL subreddit about her 6 or 7 former stepmothers of varying nationalities and degrees of eccentricity. They were all still in her life somehow and would feed off each other and do outrageous things. She referred to them as the International House of Misfits. Story 20. Half of AITA. It's always obvious when a post is fake, but I always take a second to appreciate a well-crafted rage bait. All these years later, the art of trolling still hasn't been lost. Story 21. Remember the story of a woman who ran away from her very conservative family to South Africa. The highlight was her comment about her friend doing paintings and showing us her work. Crudely made artificial intelligence-generated images. Story 22. The story is about a man who had a child who turned out to be a psychopath, and the wife almost killed him. I don't remember the exact details, but I remember thinking this is either really fake or the original poster and his wife were terrible parents. Story 23. 2 for me. 1. The story about a nurse in the United Kingdom who had diabetes and went to visit her girlfriend at the beginning of the nationwide 2020 lockdown, got in a diabetes-induced crash, and arrived at her girlfriend's front door many hours later, after the police told her that she was dead. It was complete fiction from beginning to end, but it amused me that the police didn't search for the woman. They simply saw a crashed car in a field and concluded that she must be dead, then informed this random woman who wouldn't even be listed as her next of kin. The story in Entitled Parents where someone was accused of sexual assault because they won a school art competition over someone else. The school got involved and tried to have the person arrested and expelled. But surprise, they couldn't have sexually assaulted the other child because they were both girls. The accused just looked like a boy. It's absolutely incredible how the school wouldn't know this. Story 24. Pretty much every best of Reddit thread featuring a post from a subreddit like AMI the Asshole contains a similar pattern. Original post. Minor complaint about husband. 1 week later, so he showed his true colors and we filed for divorce. Couldn't even wait a few weeks to share the next part of the story? You were a bit frustrated. And now you're divorcing them almost immediately after the Reddit post? Sure. Story 25. Reading the responses to some of the most outlandishly fake, rage-inducing posts generated by artificial intelligence, which sympathize with the original posters and offer reasoned, well-thought-out replies, makes me understand why we have elected the least capable and most malicious individuals. For a while, there was a series of reposts about a sister who became homeless and needed a place to stay, along with her troublesome nephew who damaged electronics, ignored boundaries, and mistreated a pet. Family helps family. For a month, I saw the same story reposted, and the same individuals were engaging with it. Come on, do you really think there is an outbreak of this happening all of a sudden? Story 26. I don't make a habit of following specific subreddits that allow people to post extreme or nonsensical content, so I'm not very familiar with them. However, I see enough posts from various sources that share screenshots from Reddit to confirm that, in my opinion, much of the content posted there is entirely fictional. Story 27. I really hope the Jolly Rancher story and the other stories from old Reddit are both fake. Story 28. I know using anti-work feels like cheating, but a man posted a story about how his boss fired him as an April Fool's joke. Details of the story. This happened in 2022, which is important later. The man claims to have never watched The Office, but named his boss Michael. Firing someone as an April Fool's joke is something Michael Scott does early in the show. The man is fired first thing in the morning. He spends the next few hours packing up his desk, and no one asks what he is doing. Before leaving, he takes his company's master client list, which never comes up again. He goes home around noon. His boss calls him in the afternoon, wondering where he is. He tells his boss he is at home because he was fired. His boss is angry because it was a joke. The initial post ends with him stating he will contact a lawyer. The next day, he posts an update. When his coworkers found out what happened, they all quit in solidarity. The man hired a lawyer and brought them up to speed. The lawyer negotiated with the company's human resources. Michael was reassigned, and the man was promoted to Michael's position, receiving a significant raise and a month-long vacation bonus. This scenario also occurs in The Office with Oscar after he is outed by Michael. All co-workers were eventually brought back. All of this occurred in less than 24 hours. Additionally, April 1st, 2022, was a Friday. Even those in anti-work were calling bullshit on the situation, especially regarding hiring a lawyer on a Friday afternoon. Story 29. A person claiming to be a billionaire's personal butler. I have seen more convincing stories online. Story 30. People still talk with wide-eyed wonder about that creative writing exercise with the lamp, where a man lives a life in a coma. Inevitably, others show up saying, "A similar thing happened to me." Story 31. There was a story that ended with a man's father beating him senseless with jumper cables, which raises some doubts for me. Story 32. I don't know if it's fake, but the post about the woman who had to free bleed during her period and carried a bloody towel with her everywhere to sit on was so gross. It filled me with rage that someone would think that was acceptable. Story 33. Unfortunately, I cannot remember proper examples, but there are many Reddit stories that are simply copy-pastes of 4chan jokes. I think I actually remember one about Street Fighter, where a person is fighting homeless people for fun at night. The very short version of the original 4chan post went something like, "How should I train for a fight? Imagine if I just wear a mask and start picking fights with homeless people and others on the night streets." The Reddit story goes something like, "Am I crazy? I wear a mask and pick fights with homeless people and others on the night streets." Story 34. I was detained because they said my car was used in a drive-by shooting. However, mine was a 2016 model, while the other car was a 2017 model. Story 35. A former gang member fell in love and started a relationship with a girl. After going to jail, he discovered that his girlfriend was pregnant. He served his time and left the gang to become the father his daughter and wife deserved. He became a business owner and achieved some financial success, but his daughter began to distance herself. It turned out that his cousin was the biological father. The original poster plotted revenge and exposed everything during the Quinceañera. Story 36. Probably that one about the man with 2 broken arms, and then his mother had to help him with his needs. It is a very strange story, but also almost certainly untrue in every way. I remember seeing a comment somewhere about it, stating that they had seen an adult video with that exact plot. Whether or not that came after the Reddit story, I have no clue and do not really care to find out. But either way, it is a completely absurd tale, one that makes me laugh whenever someone references it. Story 37. 90% of the stories on Reddit are fake, derivative, or from a biased perspective attempting to gain attention or support. Can be exhausting at times. Story 38. This woman said she had 2 one-night stands on the same day, with a man and a woman. She met them both at a party later that week and discovered they were siblings. Story 39. That story "my son is a hateful incel, and I just cannot save him or defend him anymore" contained obvious stereotypes and unusual emphasis on trivial events and descriptions. Story 40. 90% of the stories on LinkedIn are mocking individuals who boast about events that did not occur. Story 41. The double-dick dude was clearly lying for attention, yet users eagerly engaged with him, asking for details on his alleged sex positions that didn't make sense and fawning over his poorly edited proof. In contrast, I believe the Agtha story was very real, as the account sporadically provided short updates years apart. At the very least, it was a funny and interesting narrative long before outlandish fetishes became common in internet jokes. Unfortunately, the account is now banned, and I don't know what happened. I really want to hear from that person again. If you're out there, please update us on your life. Story 42. One story was about a couple who encountered another woman wanting to fight the wife for her husband. Their 3-year-old daughter approached the lady and intentionally threw up on her, then stated it had been taking too long and she wanted to end the situation. Story 43. An individual expresses frustration after a confrontation with his teenage sister, who ate the brownies he wanted, resulting in him reacting violently. While he wrote about the incident under a bridge, it highlights a troubling mindset. Such behaviors exist, and often, individuals may not fully recognize the extent of their negative actions. Story 44. Every single post on not safe for work confession subreddits. If the plot itself doesn't reveal it immediately, the writing style does. Story 45. Many updates from Reddit stories range from slightly questionable to laughably fake as you review them. Story 46. All those stories where a very pretty girl would say, "My boyfriend told me I was ugly," just to gain sympathy comments are all fake stories. Story 47. Little girls named Lara, pronounced Ladasha because the dash is not silent. Story 48. The story is about a man whose wife is obsessed with Disney and insists on staying at resorts that feature Disney parks. Story 49. It was in a Reddit thread where the question was, "What is the scariest thing that happened when you were home alone at night?" One story seemed implausible. The person claimed that someone with a machete broke in and killed one of their siblings, only for them to later backtrack and say that the person was caught and arrested while trying to enter their house. Story 50. That Suga or Suga story. I can't remember anything except the author claimed to be a black lesbian, typed out the African-American vernacular English, and I remember a lot of "and everyone clapped" moments. Story 51. It has been a while since he posted, but all the posts from the jumper cable person are interesting. His comment history is quite extensive. Story 52. Some story where the original poster was asking if he was the antagonist for wanting to name his unborn daughter Luna after his late mother. His wife commented on it, saying their last name was Tick. Story 53. The story is about a man who had a cuckolding fetish and insisted it be mentioned in his wedding ceremony. After some arguments, he agreed to change the phrase, "prep the bull," to "birth the pup." For my own sanity, I have to believe it was fabricated. Story 54. Honestly, I assume all of them are fake because they cannot be verified. Alternatively, the story may also be partially fabricated as we are only hearing one side, which is likely biased or embellished. This applies to anything I read online, not just on Reddit. Story 55. Basically, any Reddit story on YouTube Shorts is interesting. However, I still watch them because I'm bored and want to see how it unfolds. Story 56. We can visit any of these confession pages. All of them are fake. I see everyone talking about their family members. Those are hilarious. Story 57. This still makes me laugh. A post about someone's neighbor who apparently trained squirrels to steal specific items from other houses in the neighborhood. They claimed the squirrels would bring back jewelry, cash, and even car keys. Story 58. A child getting bullied due to the new Squad Busters update. No child would be that upset about the changes to physically assault another child. That's all the subreddit has been about since Tuesday when the update was released. Complaints. Story 59. I feel like most of those "Am I the Asshole" stories are just secret writing prompts that people use to assess their writing skills. Story 60. Just about everything on Nice Girls. You can tell because in the screenshots they share, the recipients always have identical grammar and writing style as the senders. Story 61. I posted this in AITA and used AI to write it. I 30F. Live in a small, cozy house that I've worked hard to furnish and decorate over the years. My husband, Tom, 32M, And I don't have kids yet, but we've always made our space work for the two of us. A few weeks ago, my sister-in-law Jenna, 28F, visited from out of town and asked if she could stay with us for a few days. I've never really been close with Jenna, but she's family, so I agreed. When she arrived, she immediately started making passive-aggressive comments about our house. "Oh, it's so small. I wasn't expecting this. And is that the best furniture you could find? It looks kind of cheap." At first, I brushed it off because I didn't want to start a confrontation. However, it continued. She made fun of the paint colors I chose, called our kitchen dated, and even asked if I had considered upgrading to a better neighborhood when I mentioned the area we live in. I was getting frustrated, but I didn't say anything right away because I didn't want to make it awkward. The breaking point came when she commented on our bathroom, saying, "How do you even live like this? No wonder you don't entertain guests." At that point, I told her she was being disrespectful and that if she didn't have anything nice to say, she could leave. She became upset and said I was being dramatic, that she was just telling the truth, and that people need to hear the truth sometimes. Tom and I had a huge argument that night because he thinks I overreacted and that I should have just let her be. He says it's family and that I should have tolerated it to keep the peace. But I feel like it's not okay for her to come into my home and make me feel bad about the choices I've made. I don't think I should have had to tolerate her behavior just because she's family. Now I'm questioning if I was in the wrong. Was I wrong for asking her to leave after all the comments? Story 62. Any story featuring an ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, baby mama, favorite sister, questionable cousin, or toxic best friend named Lisa feels overly repetitive. It seems that there are not many women or girls named Lisa in the world. I understand the desire to avoid disclosing personal information, but it would be refreshing to encounter a different name in storytelling. When I see the name Lisa, I often lose interest and doubt the validity of the story. Story 63. I recently got called out for an apparently fake story, and it's just heartbreaking. People don't believe you on Reddit. This is exactly why I don't speak up in real life. People don't believe abuse. They call you a liar. I definitely don't want to go through that. Even over the internet, opening your heart and being shut down and called a liar was painful enough. Story 64. The one about the guy talking about his sister vigorously masturbating and getting juices on their laptop. Story 65. I remember two videos that were reposted with artificial intelligence voiceovers to YouTube that were particularly misleading. One was a post from a doctor on Reddit that was clearly just an advertisement for sunscreen. The other was disturbing, claiming that the underage daughter of a police officer was impregnated by her coach, but no one discovered it until she suddenly gave birth to a baby of a different race. Somehow, the man was not arrested, and the baby was adopted, while the daughter visits occasionally. Story 66. Guys, come on, it's the lamp coma story. We all took that as truth. Why? You cannot prove a coma dream. Story 67. That story about the father who is not proud of his son always receives numerous comments and upvotes, but it is clearly a work of creative writing. There are some disturbed individuals out there, but if you haven't read it, the son assaults his own mother, leading to her suicide, and faces little to no consequences. Then the father is guilt-tripped by his wife's sister for not wanting a relationship with the son. Very believable. The slightly happier story about the other troubled son who attempts to harm his baby sister and gets reprimanded by his mother is likely also fictional. Testosterone has a significant impact, and even smaller men can be stronger than most women. Story 68. A story where a man claimed he was fostering a child with cancer. He would be seen as the bad person for wanting to adopt the child because he felt a strong connection, but others said it was a bad idea. It seemed like a huge display of praise for him, which felt excessive. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.